All right. How you doing today?
I'm in good spirits. Yourself?
Dang, I'm feeling good. It's Friday. I always look forward to Friday.
Yeah, I don't feel the same way about Friday as I used to.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm not working a 9 to 5, so I'm not looking forward to getting off of work and the weekends. I live in the moment.
Must be fun.
I live in the moment. It's like nobody calls and says, "Mark, how was your weekend?" We don't do that.
That gotta be nice, okay?
Yeah. I mean, that's for people who work 5 days a week. They get off on Friday and they're looking forward to doing something other than working. And then on
Mm-hmm.
Monday you get that call. So how was your weekend?
Mm-hmm.
I I don't no, not anymore.
Really.
Yeah.
So today we are here to talk about a good book, y'all. Good mental health book for Black men. I urge and encourage everybody, even women, to get this book because it'll be informative. We all have brothers, fathers, siblings, nieces and nephews. So this is not just for men, y'all. And also what I love about it is that there's multiple stories because everybody's story isn't the same. So I like that we get different perspectives, and just different experiences. And then they also give you solutions because it'll be tough to read a book and then what I'm gonna do with all this information. So they give you, good solutions. So that's what I love about this book when I was reading it.
Well, I'm glad you love the book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So a question I would like to ask is, how do you think depression typically look on a man?
Okay, could you repeat that, please?
How does depression typically look? How does it typically look for a man? If
So
that makes
depression affects each person differently. There's different levels of depression. There's clinical depression, which is diagnosed by a professional. There's seasonal depression, which comes with the 4 seasons. Sometimes there's depression that comes with losing a loved one or ending a relationship, not having any money, getting fired from your job, losing your apartment. Sometimes the depression is, going to your bank account and not having the money in your bank account.
looking low.
I'm laughing, but it ain't funny when you.
Oh, yeah.
So there's different types of depression, and Iyanla Vanzant says depression is anger turned inward.
Mm.
That's one perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But depression is also a mood disorder and a mental illness. And so with Black men, historically, we have not felt safe to tell the truth about how we feel.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you have all of this ancestral trauma that's in our DNA, and we live in a digital world where there's violence every day, whether it's physical, mental, sexual, financial, emotional violence, and you feel like your life has no meaning or no purpose or no value, that can create depression as well. I was diagnosed with depression in February of 1995, clinical depression, with moderate depression. I don't take medication. Medication is not for everyone. But I did go into therapy on and off for about 10 years. Therapy is not for everyone, but that really helped me a lot. And it helped me to learn how to set boundaries, how to talk about how I feel, how to say no, how to put myself first, how to prioritize my mental health, and do things that bring me joy, you know. So it's different for every Black man. But some of the common symptoms of depression are a loss of interest in things that bring you pleasure, whether it's reading a book, going to the gym, hanging out with your friends. Depression can lead to isolation, which can lead to self-pity. Sometimes depression is oversleeping or overeating or not eating at all, going from one extreme to another. Sometimes depression is not answering the phone. not responding to a text or an email, not changing your clothes, not taking a shower, not connecting with family and friends. There's so many different symptoms of depression. And it's important to be mindful of what you have and not what you think you have. Because sometimes people like to diagnose themselves.
Self-diagnosed, yeah.
They want to be the doctor and the nurse. And they turn them out into molehills. So it's important to really, you know, speak to your primary care physician or, you know, a medical professional and have a conversation and talk about what's going on with your life.
And you mentioned that they don't create a safe space for men. So how do you think that safe space would look? Or what do you think that safe space should look like when someone comes as a Black man and say, hey, I'm struggling with my mental health?
Well, I mean, you and I are creating a safe space right now by having this conversation. So sometimes it's just as simple as picking up the phone and just telling someone, I need to talk. Are you willing to listen?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it can mean joining a community-based organization and going to a support group, or going online, going on social media and creating your own support group.
Mm-hmm.
Calling a few friends, asking them to come over once a week, once a month, for an hour, and just chop it up, you know? Seeing a mental health professional, which could be a therapist, social worker, a life coach, psychologist, and having that one-on-one dialogue. So there's different ways to create a safe space. I mean, historically, Black men, although we have not participated in therapy for most of our existence here, we have had therapeutic conversations. So, you know, we talk in the barbershop, we talk in the locker room, we talk in grandma's kitchen, we talk on the front porch, we talk in the backseat of a car, we talk at the basketball game. You know, there are spaces that we have created, you know, at a wedding, graduation, anniversary, where we kick it with each other. But quite often we don't say to each other, how do you feel? So there's that lack of emotional intelligence, emotional literacy. Some of us don't have the vocabulary to express our emotions. Emotions means emotion, energy and motion, right? Every human being has energy and motion. But there's something unique about the pain of a Black man. And, you know, you mentioned having a safe space. It's something that we have to learn how to create for ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Because being around people and knowing that you're not the only person going through it, it takes kind of that pressure off. Like, okay, it's not just me. Like everybody, you know, deal with this at some point, or some people have dealt with this at some point. So yeah, I agree. I think being around people definitely helps with that. Because isolation is you just thinking. You just constantly just thinking and thinking and thinking.
Yeah,
So
and you know, I was diagnosed HIV positive 29 years ago, and a friend of mine suggested I join an HIV positive support group. In that group, we all had that thing in common, was the virus, but we talked about how we felt, you know, the uncertainty, the loneliness, and feeling depressed because thinking that no one's going to accept you for who you are, like you for who you are. So having those fears can create depression as well, the fear of the unknown. Like, how will people treat me when I tell them this is what I'm dealing with? Because I had to get on the plane, for example, and go to Chicago and tell everybody in my family. And you know, we got a clan, we got a tribe. And I had to sit down with each person individually, right? And thank God at the time I was in therapy. So me and my therapist would talk about what to say, what not to say, where to have the conversation. Like, you don't want to have this conversation at McDonald's.
right.
You don't want to be in Marshall Fields trying to talk about HIV. But
Yeah.
you have to have a space where it's quiet, it's intimate. You can look somebody in the eye. And it's, you know, now this is 29 years ago. So, you know, it was different back then. And everyone's reaction was completely different. Today, it's not as shocking to meet somebody who's HIV positive, right? But 29 years ago, it was a whole different global perspective around HIV, medication. stigma, etc. You know, racism, you know, there were no clinical trials for Black people. The drugs were very expensive. You know, sometimes the drugs are worse than the virus. You know, I had a friend who was taking something called Crixivan. Crixivan made him bloated. His skin started to pop, and his legs would swell up. He had a big stomach. Sometimes medication, the side effects is actually worse than the illness that you have.
Yeah.
That's why it's important to talk to your physician and ask questions and get a second opinion.
Yeah.
Because some doctors don't know how to admit, they don't know what they're talking about.
This is true.
You know what I mean? So we have to hold them accountable, you know, and so yeah, it's really important to have people in your life that you can network with, that you feel safe with, that you trust, that know how to listen, that won't cut you off and finish your sentences and blame you for how you feel. Oh, you shouldn't feel sad. Oh, you shouldn't feel frustrated. Oh, you shouldn't feel depressed. You have a job. You're married. You have a house. You know what I'm saying? People will give you reasons why you shouldn't feel the way you should. Those are not the right people to talk to.
Feel and just be there while you're feeling.
Thank
that
you. Thank
you.
Because feelings are not facts.
Right.
And feelings are not friends. You know, they flow through your body and they come back, they're recycled. But it's important to have somebody who can just be present and just listen. You ain't gotta say nothing. You don't have to do nothing. Because you can't take my feelings away.
Yeah.
They're on the inside.
Yeah.
But sometimes some people who don't have compassion, who don't have empathy, they will blame you or shame you for how you feel. And now depression turns into rage.
Yeah.
You want to curse them out.
I think it's important to protect yourself from that. Ask, can I talk to you about something? It's real personal, it's real heavy. Are you in a space to receive it? You know, because I think that's important, because a lot of times people will call and just trauma dump. And it'd be a lot. And your day is already too much. So I think it's important to always ask, because you don't, like you said, you don't want it to be unproductive. Like you call, now you're pissed off. So
and I love what you said about you said about what did you say about, are you in a space to receive it?
Yeah, are you in a space to receive that? Because it's like a trauma dump.
Yeah, yeah. See, I didn't have your wisdom, Dashe, when I was your age. I was too caught up in Joan Rivers and Wendy Williams and Richard Pryor and, you know, being silly. I didn't know how to ask for what I need, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes that's an issue too, is, you know, Black men may not feel comfortable asking for what they need because they're so focused on getting what they want. And sometimes we don't even know what we need.
Yeah.
We don't know the difference.
You didn't have the resources either, though, that we have today, that I'm able to read and understand and, you know, kind of dive in more. So it's a lot more accessible today than it was earlier. So I think that's why a lot of kids, even younger than me, just catching on to mental health and the things, to how to like self-regulate and like, yeah.
No, you're very right about that. And that's a function of living in a digital world where social media is at your fingertips.
Yeah.
You can click a button and get some information in like 60 seconds, where in the past you had to go outside and go to the library.
No.
And that's only when the library was open. You had to wait and sit down and find a quiet space. But today, you don't have to leave your house to get information, to have access. You know, you can have a conversation. You don't have to go to a physical space. You can have a conversation with a therapist or a mental health professional on the phone, on Zoom, right? You don't actually have to leave your space. And some places offer free services as well, right?
Yeah.
Because some people don't have insurance, some people are not employed, so their access is limited. And then some people are not comfortable with social media. Not everybody is social media savvy.
This is true.
So people have an email address and never use it. So you send them information, they don't look at it. Yeah. So, you know, you can't assume it's because a person is connected that they are engaged.
Yeah.
Because there's different steps that you have to take to get that access actually benefiting you for your body, mind, and spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because honestly, what you said earlier, as far as understanding what you're really feeling, because sometimes you're not angry, you're just frustrated, and that can change the dynamic of how you move with that situation. And I actually learned that from TikTok. Like, words matter, and how you say them, and like how you use them. Like, it can change. I don't know, just the situation. Like I was mentioning, instead of you being like terrified, maybe you're just nervous. Like, just learning those words, because you can make a situation so much more worse. That's what I took from that.
No,
You
no,
can
you're
make
right. No,
words.
you're right, and language does matter. And
Mm-hmm.
a person can confuse being suicidal and they're
Mm-hmm.
really just sad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, are you familiar with the term survivor's guilt?
Yes.
So,
I was just talking about that. Go ahead.
yeah, so survivor's guilt can lead you to thinking that you somehow were responsible for someone's harm. And that could create a sense of depression,
Mm-hmm.
a sense of alienation. And it
Mm-hmm.
helps to have people who can share with you language so we can become emotionally literate and learn how to express ourselves freely.
Mm-hmm.
But that comes slowly over a period of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have a question about crying as a boy.
Mm-hmm.
So, when you were growing up, were you told that men weren't supposed to cry, or, like, suck it up, or was crying okay?
Crying was never okay for a boy, and I'll share a story. I remember my family, we went to go see The Wiz
Mm-hmm.
at Chicago Theater. It was one of the few times that we actually went out together as a family. Me, my three brothers, my three sisters, my mother, my father. Went to see The Wiz with Stephanie Mills playing Dorothy. And I love Stephanie Mills, one of my favorite singers. So she sings Home, right? And then she hits that crescendo, and she touches what I know now is my spirit.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, I was a little boy, I didn't know what was going on, but she touched something deep in me, and I started crying.
Mm-hmm.
And my brothers and sisters some of them were laughing at me. Now, their laughter, I know now, it wasn't malicious,
Mm-mm.
but at the time, it was confusing. I
Mm-hmm.
felt confused. I felt embarrassed. I felt humiliated. I felt uncomfortable. Sometimes it's just nervous laughter. You see your brother and sister laugh, and you don't know, you don't know why they're reacting a certain way. So that's, you laugh at them, not at their character, but I've always been very hypersensitive,
Mm-hmm.
and I've taken things personally when I should not have. So I grew up, Dashe, with the fear of being publicly humiliated.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I didn't know that until I got into therapy.
Mm-hmm.
I got into therapy, and my therapist would ask me certain questions about my past, and I was able to reflect in a quiet space that was non-judgmental, that was fair, and I could speak my truth without somebody to left or right judging me, blaming me, criticizing me, interrupting me.
Mm-hmm.
It's really challenging to find somebody that you can actually have a conversation with, where you talk and they listen. The average person doesn't know how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Go back to your question, because I know it's a long answer. So,
No, 'cause they listen to respond and not kind of listen. So I know I get exactly what you're saying.
yeah. So typically, Black boys are not allowed the space to cry, to sob, to weep, to be vulnerable, to be transparent. We get feminized, we get criticized, ridiculed, laughed at, judged, humiliated, and all that trauma can stay with you for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Little girls, when they cry, typically someone will give them a hug and a kiss.
Mm-hmm.
What's the matter, baby? You okay? You all right? Come here, right?
Yeah.
They want to take you out to dinner, buy you some new clothes. So you
Okay,
start crying on purpose.
let's
You know what I mean? You just start crying when you're 12, you're 18, you just start crying. And you think you're gonna get something like as a Christmas.
Yeah, we get coddled. We definitely get coddled
Yeah.
when cry for sure.
Boys get blames.
Mm,
I'll give you something to cry about. You know what I mean?
mm,
What
mm,
you crying for? You must have said something. You must have did something.
mm.
And we don't get believed.
Wow.
So that's something that we learn very early on. Okay, this is not safe. If I cry at home, if I cry at school, if I cry at the baseball field, I'm not going to get what I need. You kind of get that instinct when you're a child, what you need, and you realize, you know what, this don't feel good, so I'm not going to do that again. You
Mm.
become emotionally withdrawn.
So crying becomes uncomfortable.
It becomes uncomfortable. It becomes traumatic.
Mm.
It becomes something that you just don't do because
Mm.
you're afraid of the response or the reaction to the other person. You just don't
Mm.
feel safe. That's been my experience, and I know what has happened to me is other Black men have said the same thing. But
Yeah.
it's courage to admit it, right?
Yeah.
Like, who wants to go back? I mean, the average person doesn't want to look back when they were young and say what happened because you don't want to blame your family or your homies or your classmates or your teacher, right? Because your teacher could say something to you and the whole class starts laughing, and now you feel ridiculed.
Mm-hmm.
Now you don't want to go back to school.
Right. Because it's the kids and the teacher.
I mean,
Mm-mm.
you can't win for losing.
Yeah.
So it's difficult. It's difficult to find people that can honor and affirm and hold your feelings and confidence, but you really feel like you can just speak your truth.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's all we need is just be able to speak our truth, our emotional truth in the moment. And I don't have to care for the rest of the day and the week and the month and the year. I can just get it out now, woosah, right? And then be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. But you know, that's not our natural way of handling difficult feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, well, I would like to say that I think crying shows vulnerability. And to me, that's strength.
Yes.
Because holding that in, because to me, when you cry, you're allowing yourself to just feel it. Like once you feel it, you go through it and you can move, like you said, you can move past it. But when you kind of just hold on to that, it kind of just, what am I trying to say? Like just builds up and it comes out in like a way that you really didn't want it to come out. And then it's like you're really not getting heard because of how you kind of handle certain things in the past, and nobody gets like how you like truly feel. So
Why do you
like
think vulnerability is considered to be a weakness?
and that's unfortunate.
Mhm.
That's
Why do
unfortunate.
you think that's the general consensus?
Because I think we just have this idea of a man just supposed to be hard, solid, like you said, no emotion. He just goes for it. But that's not a person. That's not how a human reacts. So I think that's a societal thing that we just put on men, and men just had to take it and just try to, deal with it the best way they can.
Mhm.
But I think it's based on society and how we view men and what men are supposed to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think vulnerability, like I said, is a strength.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's a hashtag.
Mm-hmm.
It should be a t-shirt. But that's not the message that you get when you're young,
Like,
that
mm-hmm.
vulnerability is strength. And so by the time you reach a certain age and your personality is formed and you have certain beliefs and morals and values, it's hard to get that in there.
And then part of it, listening to your question, I think because we look at our Black boys as men, but we don't look at them like that's our little boy. Like we now have the hashtag of like Black boy joy, but typically he's a grown man at 7. Like when women, it bothers me when women say you're the man of the house. No, he's a child.
Right. Right.
He's a kid.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that pressure is well, like, oh, I gotta step up, I gotta do this. And now you making a 7-year-old be emotionally responsible for an adult and siblings. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I think that type of concept is something that we have inherited. It's like generational trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Um, sometimes it's because of the father may be absent,
Mm-hmm.
and so the woman needs a male figure, and she assumes that her male child can inherit that role because of his gender.
Yeah.
And now because of his character or his lived experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that type of trauma can also lead to depression when you realize when you're, there's a basketball player, John Wall. He publicly admitted that he struggled with depression, suicide ideation. He admitted that his father had transitioned when he was 9 years old. And so he said, I got to be the man of the house.
Mm-hmm.
He said he had to be a man when he was 9. Now, where did he get that idea from? Right? Now, this guy is multimillionaire, very successful, etc. But he admitted that, you know, he had some unresolved issues and he wanted to end his life. And people didn't understand him being that transparent. But that's a typical reaction is a woman will tell a little boy, like you said, I need you to be the man of the house, calm little man, you know, man up, grow up, suck it up, grow some. The things that you hear, and like you said, real men don't cry.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much stigma when it comes to manhood, masculinity. There's this idea that Black men are inherently lazy. You know, we built this damn country, never got paid for it.
Right.
So just because a man is unemployed doesn't mean he's lazy.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but that's a stigma, and that type of stigma when you feel powerless over authority, you know, and you're not able to get the kind of work that gives you type of meaning or purpose or value, that can create depression.
Mm-hmm.
Depression has so many layers, so
Mm-hmm.
many nuances. And if you don't talk about it, you can convince yourself that it's not real.
Mm-hmm.
So you just go through life every day, never talking about how you feel, you know, and at some point it has to come out.
Yeah.
It
And it's
just,
gonna come but you don't want it to, not 9 times out.
yeah, yeah. And sometimes the people closest to you end up getting the worst of it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or we take out on ourselves through self-medication.
This is true.
Yeah. So that's one reason why in the book I wanted to have resources that people could use. In the book, there are resources, there are advocates you can speak to, clinicians, there are educators, there are podcasts you can listen to, videos you can watch, organizations you can connect with, helplines you can call. They're 24-hour helplines. You know, 988 is a 24-hour helpline. Because suicide is prevalent amongst Black boys and men. The leading, the fastest rate of suicide right now is Black boys ages 5 to 12 in the United States. The highest rate of suicide today, from what I just learned recently at a conference, is Black boys aged 5 to 12. Suicide is the third leading cause of death amongst Black men aged 25 to 34. Black men die by suicide 3 times the rate of Black women. I say die by suicide, not commit suicide. Because when we say someone committed suicide, we are implying that person is a criminal, that person is unethical, that person is selfish, that person is inhumane, that person doesn't believe in God. We have all of these judgments, right? And from day to day, you really don't know what people are going through unless you ask them or they tell you. You just don't know. And
Yeah,
so,
you don't.
it's important, like you mentioned earlier, language matters. So I had to learn to stop saying he or she committed suicide. This person died by suicide. I remember on my 21st birthday, I was hanging out with my brother. We come home and we learned that my mother's best friend took a gun to her head and ended her life. Now, this woman was the first Black woman to have her own TV show in Chicago. She was the first Black woman to have her own newspaper column. She was so full of joy. She was a pleasure to be around, always in good spirits. She was in an interracial marriage, she had two kids, twin kids, and she ended her life. And, we didn't talk about it, and so when you don't talk about how you feel, it can seem like nothing happened. You know what I mean? And that's the sad part is, someone dies and you're in the backseat of the car and you're on your way to someone's house and no one's talking about how they feel. It's just, it's the ceremony of going to a funeral, going to a wake, going to someone's house, and the ceremony, because there's grief and there's mourning, right? Mourning is very ceremonial, going to a service. But grief can last decades. When someone you love and care about is no longer on this earth, nobody can tell you, there's no timetable, there's no statute of limitation on that pain, that loss, that emptiness, that feeling. It's been over 15 years since my father transitioned, and I have his his eulogy right next to him, so I see him every day. My great-grandmother she was 97 when she transitioned. I was 16. Like I still have those memories. So that can lead to depression sometimes too, when you have that moment where you want to like reach out and talk to somebody, they're not there. That can lead to depression. So again, that's why it's important to have people that can handle your feelings, can be present for you, like you said, can just hold that space, have capacity. It's really important to have somebody you can talk to behind the field.
For sure. And specifically, the solutions that I picked up was on page 20 and 51, y'all. So when y'all get this book, 20, 50, and 51, there's so many more, but those were the three that really stood out to me.
And what's the book again, please?
You said what? I'll say the number.
The
name of the book is Cultural Silence and Wounded Souls. Absolutely.
The full name of the book.
Cultural Silence and Wooden Souls, Black Men Speak About Mental Health.
There you go.
Okay. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's on Amazon, either through paperback or through Kindle.
Yes. And we will have the link as well, so you don't have to go find it, go look for it. It will be right in the description. So, we get on that.
So some of the solutions that you found, what did you think about them?
Okay, so let me go to which one I want to do. So on 51, it has example of positive mental health, meditation, prayer, smiling, stretching. Breathing is a foundation exercise which has been transformative lately. I encourage you to find your own routine and develop your own habits. I like that he gave suggestions, but also remember that you want to do things that's going to apply to you, because you want to do these things on a daily. So if you don't stretch, maybe you want to do meditation. If you don't want to do meditation, maybe you just want to do a little prayer. So I like that, because you definitely want to tailor it to your what you regularly do, because you want to make a routine. So I love that. And then let me get one more. Page 20 says early intervention is critical. I think that is so important. Like, even if you just feeling somewhere, you feeling off, like, I normally don't feel like this. Maybe I need to go talk to somebody. You should check it out and see, because when you catch it early, to me, you prevent yourself from doing things that you might not have done if you were in that state of understanding. I hope that made sense. But
it does, and I think it's also important to be mindful that mental health is universal. Mental health is our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. Mental health is our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs, the way we handle stress, the way we deal with conflict, the choices that we make. That's everybody, right? Sometimes people conflict mental health and mental illness and mental wellness. So you have the different terms being used interchangeably that can cause confusion.
Yeah.
So not everyone has a mental illness. But although Black people, we have our own. I shouldn't, but you know.
We in our own category.
We got our own little cray going on. Yeah, we got some issues. But you know, we can laugh at them and not take ourselves so morbidly serious.
Yeah.
Laughter is a tool for mental health.
I think so.
Sometimes go to Hulu, Netflix, Prime, whatever streaming you got, put on Richard Pryor, Robin Harris, Patrice O'Neal, Miles Mabley, Whoopi Goldberg, whatever comedian you like. And just, you know, let them do what they do.
Yeah.
And your mood, if you can just allow yourself a moment to have your mood be shifted by another human being, because sometimes people hold on to their depression because they're afraid to let it go. Kind of wear like a badge of honor almost. You know what I mean? And that's not really healthy, you know. No one can tell you when your feelings are going to lift. It is important, as you mentioned, to have solutions. Journaling, very important. Get a piece of paper and just write out your feelings for 15 minutes, right? Watching a podcast, listening to two people talk about their experiences, looking at a video is important. Reading a book where people are talking about solutions.
And writing.
Say it again.
Writing is a big one.
Yeah.
Because I did that one day and I was just like, wow. Like as I was writing, and I was writing in cursive, so I was just gone.
Right.
It's just like, I don't know, it was just slowly but surely, like I was just feeling lighter and lighter. That's what it did for me.
Yeah. And also writing is a sense of agency, a sense of autonomy, because you're writing your feeling, not what someone's telling you, but you're writing what you know to be true on the inside. Which takes courage. It takes some level of humility, some level of transparency. But if you can get a piece of paper and a pencil, write feelings at the top of it, and just write, I feel. Whatever comes to your mind, just write it down. And after 15 minutes, just stop. Let that be an exercise. Once a day, once every other day, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, on the weekends, you know. Like you said, use a routine and make it a ritual. You know, there's a spiritual law that says if you do the same thing every day for 21 days, it becomes a habit. So a gratitude list can be very helpful in your mental health journey. Every 90 days, Dashe, I write down 20 people, places, and things I'm grateful for. Every 90 days. I've been doing this consistently for over 28 years. Every 90 days I write down, because God is constantly bringing new people in my life and introducing me to new places, new things. You know, I'm on social media every day, so I'm constantly connecting with people. And so I'm grateful to have that conversation, that connection, and they're sharing ideas, information. Even if I never talk to you for the rest of my life, that one time, it had value, it had meaning, it had purpose. And I'm grateful for that. So when I write it down, you know, what we do becomes true for us when it becomes real, once we write it down.
Yeah.
I don't want it to just be in my head, because, you know, I got CRS, I can't remember spit. It's a family show.
Not the reminders.
Yeah. So there's so many tools that we can use to help us.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
And I about Colin Kaepernick, how do you think that will affect the way Black men would defend themselves in like a corporate setting or just really in any setting?
What do you mean?
So when he took a knee, he lost his contracts for football.
Right.
and he eventually go back, but they don't think that they're going to let him, but he's still training as if, you know, he will go back. Do you think him speaking up the way he did for Black people will discourage other Black male players, or do you think it will encourage them to?
No, I think he has encouraged people. He's also, in many ways, I think, found his purpose,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because being an athlete is a career. But I mean, Kobe Bryant played for the Lakers after 20 years, and then he won an Oscar for a
Mm-hmm.
documentary. You know, so there's your job, there's your career, there's your purpose. It's not always the same. And so after he was blacklisted from the NFL, he's never gonna play again in the NFL. So
Yeah.
I don't see that happening. You know, I could
Mm-hmm.
be wrong, but you know, especially once you reach a certain age, owners are not looking for a quarterback who's 32, 34, who hasn't played in 7, 8 years, especially when you got afro.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you know, he found his calling, and you know, he got into documentaries, publishing,
Mm-hmm.
community activism. Because people was, you know, it's crazy. People thought that he was not patriotic,
Mm.
or that he was ungrateful, that he was complaining. You know, he was trying to highlight mass incarceration, police brutality, white supremacy. But what people thought they heard was, I don't like the police, and I don't like the military, and I don't like the United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, you know, it's really important, again, why we should tell our own stories, because we have to control the images, the messages, the narrative. And once it gets on CNN, it becomes breaking news.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, so they're not really our ally. I don't care who works for CNN. I said it.
Oh, go ahead and say it one more time, because I don't think
It
they
had to
heard.
be said, you know what I'm saying? They're not our ally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So what Colin Kaepernick did, it was a sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
It was courageous. There was, you know, he lost a lot of money, his name, his reputation, but he found another path. You know, for some people that can lead them to a level of depression. They may not be able to crawl out that hole for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think it will encourage other Black men, Black male athletes to speak up. It's like what they do in college with the name, image, and likeness, these athletes, you know, because for years you're on campus and you go to the, you know, cafeteria and you see somebody rocking your jersey and you're not getting paid that money,
Mm.
but they at the game, they in school, and they rocking your jersey. Somebody made a jersey, a hoodie, and a t-shirt with your name and number on the back of it, and you're not getting a penny of that. That has changed, right?
Mm.
So there are a lot of positives that can be taken from what Colin Kaepernick has done. Absolutely.
I agree. And watching his story, it makes sense. This might have been the last straw for him, because I didn't know that he went through that, and that his adoptive parents was like straight white.
Yeah.
And the things that, because when you're of that race, you tend to miss things that's right in front of your face,
Right.
because you're not looking for, or not even looking for, you're just accustomed to being treated a certain way.
Mhm.
But when you're accustomed to be treated a certain way, you kind of, you know, you be on it. So yeah, I just thought that was interesting and empowering, because other people did it and they didn't get what he got. So maybe, you know, that did help.
Well, I mean, in some ways it started a mini movement. I remember there
Mm-hmm.
was one time, which was so funny and sad, but they showed the Congressional Black Caucus, right? And they were
Mm-hmm.
meeting somewhere in DC, and a couple of them had on their little fake dashiki, and they
Oh gosh,
took
I'm
it
not.
off. And they all stopped for a moment, they took a knee. You know, the ones that could get on their knees, because some of them kind of old. Let me say, you know what I'm saying? So they were like, oh, no, I can't go that far.
I'll bow my head and put my hand
Okay,
up, but
I'm gonna take a hip. I'm gonna take a hip, not a knee.
oh,
But yeah, and to see Nancy Pelosi with her fake kente cloth, and she gonna take a knee. I'm like, Nancy, really? I wanted to say, Nancy, just say no. Like, don't do it, girl. Come on now.
Yeah.
But that's sometimes those things get trivialized and commercialized and co-opted. You know, the things that we do. We got to take ownership of the things that we do and keep them very black and funny.
Yeah, that's like when they pop up around and around election and they show up to the chicken spots and
yeah, I mean, I saw a video recently of Joe Biden having lunch with two black boys and their father, and they was eating fried chicken.
Oh,
really, really, Joe?
that's not
you like Popeyes now all of a sudden?
right.
I mean, but that's the world that we live in. And I'm like, why would you allow yourself to be used like that?
Seriously.
Of course, the little boys are taught manners by their parents. So of course they're gonna, yes, sir, no, sir, thank you, you know. But can they really tell him how they really feel?
Right.
By eating the chicken.
And that's another conversation. Performance of it all is what kills me every time, because I think we're too emotionally driven when it comes to that type of stuff, and instead of like thinking logically, like we feel good at the moment singing songs, but like what's gonna happen after today? Like I'm not trying to sing no more. You know what I'm saying?
Some people are going to vote for him just because of that viral clip. Just the image of, you know, the president having fried chicken with two black boys and a black man. So, oh, he's down with us. He's cool. We're gonna give him a ghetto pass, right? Like when Bill Clinton was at Arsenio Hall with his shades and playing saxophone. You know, now he's Dizzy Gillespie. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, you are not Miles Davis.
Right, and nobody's gonna explain to that child what happened in 1994 with our president.
The crime bill?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And he's never really, you know, taken ownership of that. And then all the men that have been in prison because of that. And what's crazy now is that marijuana is legal in certain states. But, you know, now.
All because young black entrepreneurs and they wasn't making taxes off that money.
There you go. It's taxation without representation. That's the only reason why it's legal.
But they lazy though.
Yeah, yeah. But now, obviously, if you want to have your own cannabis business, you got to get a loan. And it's difficult for a black male to get a loan at a bank. The historical racism, all the redlining, so you have to go through all that. That leads to depression, right? So that it's just there's so many layers, and we go through so much, Dashe, every day. Right now in New York City, the governor has employed 1,000 National Guards and police officers because there's been like a rise in transit violence. Similar to California. Not California, but Philadelphia. So, you know, America's response is police and military, right? And that's that started with Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon coined the term law and order. He thought that drugs was America's number one problem, so he started building prisons. So in your
he started on drugs too.
I'm not sure where that term came from, but it was a war not on drugs, it was a war on black and brown people.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was the phrase that was used. But now the governor of New York State has all these National Guards and police officers at certain designated train stations where they check in your bag.
Oh, that's what that was about. Okay.
So now you got stop and frisk at the train station.
Wow.
So I'm trying to get from point A to point B, and you want to stop and see if I got a bomb. Really? Do you think I would take a bomb to the train station?
Right.
No one does that. That has not been our historical experience. Bombers don't take bombs on the train. Do you know what I'm saying? Now, okay, you may think a person may have a knife or a gun that's all good. But the mayor is saying that he wants to stop repeat offenders. This is not the way to do it. You know,
It's just, it's crossing the border of violating human rights. So it's like, how far are y'all gonna go? Like, it starts here, then where is it gonna go next? That would be like my question. What is the goal here? What is the point of this for real?
and how long will you continue to have these National Guards? Because you know, the average person doesn't feel safer with a man or woman with a uniform and a gun.
Not at all.
It's training.
Mm-mm.
It's not about safety, right? It's not about safety, but they're getting paid. They're doing overtime. They're doing time and a half, right? So that's the solution, you know, and that can lead to depression because you just feel so powerless, you feel so helpless. You go to the train station, you got to deal with, you know, the fares keep going up, service going down, fares going up, trains are delayed, homeless people on the train, people smoking crack on the train. You know what I mean? And now you got the guards, you got the cops. You don't even want to take the train.
And I just DoorDash it for all of this, because
yeah. But I mean, some people, I mean, obviously this is New York City, you know, a lot of us, we need the transit system to go to work, go to school, take care of our responsibilities. You know, I don't have a car, you know what I'm saying? So that's the system that we use, and we want our system to be safe, but also to be humanized. It's not natural to go to a train station and be greeted by National Guards and police officers. That's just not the natural, that's not natural. But that's their solution. And of course, they're gonna be, that means that more Black and brown people are gonna go to jail for first time nonviolent crimes. You know what I'm saying? So I have a Metro card. I pay half fare, right? When I swipe my Metro card, there's a red light that goes off. I have been stopped more than once to take a look at my they want my ID, they want to see what my Metro card looks like.
really?
Yeah, it's
Not the ID.
when I mean when people swipe their cards in the train, usually there's a green light that goes off. And sometimes the cops that are there, they're looking to see what happens. Because you got people with their bootleg counterfeit cards, and they sell them for 95 cents. And people will buy them. Listen, I'm not letting nobody in. You know what I mean? If you, I'm not going to jail.
Not to me, that's it.
Listen, I'm not letting nobody in. I don't care. Because people like, excuse me, yo, blood, no, I'm not letting you in. No. People do it. I'm not swiping my card for you. Nope, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
What is it coming to?
Yeah.
To be checked like that, and you already have to deal with the police in general. Now you got train, and they looking for you specifically too. Like, come on.
Yeah. I mean, and then when you're a Black male, you're already considered to be a criminal, a thief, savage, animal, brute. We just all the stigma that we get, the racism, the discrimination, the targeting, the menacing. Where you going? What you doing? How many times somebody got stopped because they were driving a nice car, and the police thought you don't have no right to be driving this car. You must have stole it. Kids in the back seat, they're traumatized, and you want to see my ID and registration? It's because I'm driving a Benz.
Right.
You know what I mean? Those are kind of issues, those type of microaggressions that we go through every day. That also affects our mental health. And when you don't talk about it, it builds up and then builds up, and eventually you're going to explode either inward or outward. So there's so many reasons why just living in this world, we need to be able to talk about how we feel. so we don't harm ourselves or somebody else.
Yeah, because I was just in Walmart and this man, he was going off. He was like, Hispanics treat us so bad, but y'all forgot we the reason why y'all here. We helped y'all get here. And he was just having a outburst. And it's probably because he's been holding it in, looking
Right.
at it, any encounters. And that day he let Walmart know like exactly how he feel about it. So yeah, that can play a part. That can play a huge part. And you could tell it really bothered him. Like, I can't believe y'all treating us like this after,
Everyone has a breaking point.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go into a store, and how many times have I gone to a store just to look around, right? And then someone's following me. Can I help you? And I say no. And I'm thinking that's the end of the conversation, right? No is a book report.
They not done.
No is a dissertation.
Mm-hmm.
So they continue to follow me. Oh, this will look nice on you. What size do you wear? And I'll probably say, ma'am or sir, if I need your help, I'll ask you.
Yeah.
And they keep following me. And the manager has them following us because they think we're going to steal. You know what I mean?
No situation.
So those types of situations, when you don't talk about them, at some point, they come out in a violent way, in a harmful way, in a self-destructive way. We need to find peaceful ways to resolve conflict, because every human being has conflict.
Mm-hmm.
No one is at peace 24 hours every single day.
Yeah.
So it's important that we have someone that we can address those issues, resolve those issues, and just try to make some sanity out of this world.
See, when it comes to the store, I make them work. I'm looking for this. Oh yeah, you can grab it. Oh yeah, I'm looking for. I'm serious. I will. If you gonna follow me, you might as well become my personal shopper because that's crazy. So I just make them work. Really.
Yeah.
I'm looking for this. I'm looking for this. That way, I'm not bothered by it. But it's just different ways that that you're comfortable with. Don't do it if you ain't comfortable. But to me, I walk out the store skipping because if that's what we doing today, that's what we doing today. I don't know, I just got a little patience for that. But it's unfortunate we have to deal with it in general though.
It is, and I do think that a Black female is less likely to be perceived as someone who's going to steal than a Black male when they go into a store. So if you have a Black male and a Black woman, female going to the store together, sometimes they may ask the male something and not ask the female anything. So she can sit down and try on her shoes, for example, or whatever, and then the male's walking to look at the clothes, and then he gets the side of it. And the person won't leave his sight. You know what I mean? And so I look at the hoodie and I move it to the left, and they come back and they move it back to the right. You know what I mean? I'm like, damn. I pick it up to look at the side. I put it back down. They got to fold it up and put it, I'm like, wow.
And that's interesting you say that because I feel like in corporate America it's different. What I've seen, like they respect a Black man walking in the office before they would respect me. Or like, I remember I was doing security and I clearly came in before the two Black men and the white man was like, sir, can I help you? Like just acting like I wasn't there. And the man even said it. No, she's there. He's like, no, I'm just here. He's like, no, I'm just wondering if you need any help. Like, I was just like, oh my God. So that's interesting to hear. Socially, they after the male versus
I mean, that's just my personal experience. It's not,
No, I'm saying like that you've seen that.
Yeah.
That's all.
I mean, but I've also witnessed it, just me being with a woman.
Right.
And being treated differently, being singled out, being asked, being questioned about my humanity in Jimmy Jazz. Just, we looking at some Jordans, you know what I mean? And pick up the Jordan and I'm gonna ask you, do you have a size 10? And well, these are $100. I didn't ask you how much they cost.
I asked you for the size.
So it's like, you're already being targeted and mistreated, disrespected. And Black men don't like being disrespected, especially in public. Those are fighting words for us. And we have to find other ways of handling that type of conflict. So it's really challenging, but that's why I think it's important that we talk about our mental.
Yeah, so everybody is seen, and we know that, like, we hear Black men. We definitely do. And how do you think Black women can better support Black men?
There are many ways that Black women can support Black men. I think some Black women can encourage Black men to consider professional help. Like I said, it could be a therapist, a social worker, a life coach, a psychologist, joining a support group. A Black woman can make the effort to be more present, less combative, do more listening and less talking. A Black woman can ask a Black man how he feels and listen to the response. Don't cut him off. Don't finish his sentence. Don't interrupt him. Right? And allow him to finish. A Black woman could suggest a Black man reading a certain book, like dun, 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 Culture, Silence, and Wounded Souls. Black men speak about mental health. Sisters.
Yeah, because
I mean, buy the book, and not just my book, but there's plenty of other books out there that, and suggest listening to a podcast like yours, right? Where we're having these type of dialogues and we can have these types of conversations. And just spending more quality time, with your mate, your brother, your neighbor, your coworker, your classmate, whatever kind of list you have, and just being more attentive, checking in on that person. Because sometimes the person that you think is the happiest is the person that feels the most alone. You know what I mean? So sometimes a text, are you okay? Just checking in. Phone call, taking somebody out to a nice vegetarian meal. I'm like Antoine Fisher, I can eat.
good. Okay.
Yeah.
We covered.
Okay.
We covered the stuff that I really wanted to make sure we dive into. So is there anything else that you want to mention that you feel like that's important?
Well, I think if people would like to reach me, they can reach me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and Twitter.
This will be in the description as well. You don't got to look for it.
Okay.
We got you.
Yeah, then please check out my website. The media page is really dope. On the media page, you have conversation, you have a discussion, there's interview, there's music, there's a lecture, there's poetry, because the book is intergenerational. So I want, different ages, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, etc., to feel like, there's a space, there's a place, there's a face, yeah, so send me an email, mjt975@msn.com, and let's talk. Let's chop it up. Let's kick it.
All right. Well, I thoroughly enjoyed this.
Thank you.
Make sure y'all go get it. Amazon link will be below. Don't have to find it. It's going to be right there to access.
And thank you, Dashe. Thank you for being willing to have this conversation with me. I really appreciate it. It means a lot.
Absolutely. And that's why I started this podcast, because I feel like we need to talk about important, impactful conversations. Like, this stuff matters. Like, it holds, weight in our community. So I feel like we need to speak on it.
Thank you. I think so. I agree with you. And Because everyone deals with mental health, but Black men have to deal with it different than other people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
All right. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Okay.
All right.